Welcome back to the deep dive. Usually when we talk about Hollywood royalty or these grand British dames on the show, we kind of know how to categorize them pretty quickly.
Right.
You've got your chameleons, your method actors, the ones who are comedic geniuses. But today, we are looking at a figure who she breaks the whole taxonomy.
She really does.
We're talking about someone who is, yes, technically a dame commander of the British Empire, but who started out as a punk rocker with a shaved head riding a motorbike.
It's a career that feels almost contradictory. That is, until you really dig into the sources. We are, of course, talking about Dame Emma Thompson.
Of course.
And while everyone knows her face, I mean, she's a complete fixture of British culture, I think we kind of take for granted just how singular her achievement actually is.
Okay, I want to start right there, because when I was going through the notes for this, one statistic, just one, jumped out that completely changed how I view her entire career.
I think I know which one you're talking about.
We aren't just talking about a successful actress here. We're talking about a genuine record holder.
It's basically the holy grail of multidisciplinary success in Hollywood. Emma Thompson is the only person in history, and I mean man or woman, to win Academy Awards for both acting and writing.
That's the hook for me. That's it. Not Orson Welles, not Woody Allen, not, Matt Damon or Ben Affleck who won together.
Nope.
Just Emma Thompson on her own.
Exactly. She won Best Actress for Howard's End back in 1992. And then she turns around and wins Best Adapted Screenplay for Sense and Sensibility in 1995.
Wow.
And that distinction, that fact alone, it completely reframes the whole discussion. We aren't just analyzing a performer who memorizes lines and, hits her marks.
No, not at all.
We're analyzing a woman of letters, a true literary architect, who also just happens to be one of the best character actors on the entire planet.
So that's our mission for this deep dive. We're going to unpack the sources, and we've got a really comprehensive biographical record, lots of interviews, critical essays, and try to figure out how she pulled this off.
Yeah, how does that happen?
How do you go from the Cambridge Footlights comedy troupe to writing Jane Austen to, I don't know, playing a magical nanny with a snaggletooth?
To understand that trajectory, I think you have to go right back to the source code. And with Thompson, the creative DNA isn't just a figure of speech, it's literal.
Right. She was born into it.
Completely. She was born in London in 1959, and she was essentially born into the industry.
Her mother is Phyllida Law, the great Scottish actress. They've actually worked together quite a lot.
They have, and she's wonderful. But the really interesting influence, the one that I think explains that writing Oscar, is her father, Eric Thompson.
Okay.
He was an actor, sure, but he's best known, especially in the UK, for creating the English version of The Magic Roundabout.
The children's show. With Dougal the dog on a spring.
That's the one. But here's the fascinating thing about The Magic Roundabout. The visuals, the animation, it was all French.
Right.
But Eric Thompson wrote entirely new, completely original English scripts that had absolutely nothing to do with the original French dialogue. He was basically inventing a narrative in real time.
So he's just riffing on the visuals.
He's playing with language, using this incredible wit and irony that, went right over the kids' heads but landed squarely with the parents watching.
Ah, okay.
So Emma literally grew up watching her father manipulate and construct language for a living. She said it was inevitable she'd end up in the arts, but specifically she says she inherited that love of the architecture of words from him.
That context is so helpful. It makes perfect sense that she wouldn't just be satisfied saying someone else's words. She grew up watching her dad invent them from scratch.
Exactly.
So she has this incredible creative pedigree. She heads off to Newnham College, Cambridge in 1977 to study English. And this is where that prim and proper dame image really just falls apart.
Oh, completely.
If you were walking around Cambridge in, say, 1978, you would not see a refined Edwardian lady.
No. You would see a woman with short, spiky red hair, probably in overalls, riding a motorbike. She called herself a punk rocker.
Wow.
Her ambition at the time was to be a comedian. She wanted to be like Lily Tomlin.
Okay, so that's the persona. But there's a specific intellectual turning point at Cambridge that the sources say really defined her future work.
Yes. She discovers a book called The Mad Woman in the Attic.
I've heard of this. It's a classic of feminist literary critique, right? About Victorian literature.
It's a seminal text. It explores how female writers in the 19th century, the Brontes, George Eliot, how they had to use these disguises in their work to express their rage or their intelligence or their ambition. Society just wouldn't allow them to do it openly. Thompson herself called reading this a seminal moment. It radicalized her. It turned her towards feminism, for sure. But maybe more importantly, it taught her that performance itself could be a way to explore those disguises.
So she's absorbing all this feminist theory, and she's realizing that acting isn't just about entertainment. It can be a form of, rebellion or disguise, like you said.
Exactly, and she had the perfect testing ground for that. We have to talk about Footlights.
Oh, the Cambridge Footlights. The roster at Cambridge during her time is, it's frankly ridiculous.
It's a complete generational anomaly. You've got her, Stephen Fry, and Hugh Laurie all in the same room.
And she and Hugh Laurie dated for a while, right?
They did. But what's really fascinating is that even among those absolute titans, she was the clear standout.
Really?
Stephen Fry has this great quote where he says there was just no doubt that Emma was going the distance. He actually gave her a nickname.
What was it?
Emma Talented.
Oh, come on. No pressure there. Hey, Emma Talented, can you pass the salt?
I know, but coming from Stephen Fry, that's about as high praise as you can get.
For sure.
And it stuck because it was obviously true. She became the vice president of Footlights. She co-directed their first ever all-female revue, which was called Woman's Hour.
And she won the Perrier Award at Edinburgh. So she wasn't just like the token girl in the set.
No. She was a driving force. She was completely dominating the UK comedy scene before she ever even stepped onto a film set.
So she graduates, she's doing sketch comedy. She does a musical revival called Me and My Girl, which she apparently hated.
She said she was exhausted doing the Lambeth Walk every single night. I don't blame her.
Me neither. But then we hit the late 80s. And this is the era that really defines her public image for a solid decade. This is the golden couple era.
This is the massive pivot. In 1987, she gets cast in this big BBC series called Fortunes of War. The leading man is this young, intense actor.
Named Kenneth Branagh.
They fall in love on set. They marry in 1989. And for the next 5 or 6 years, they are the undisputed king and queen of British culture.
It is so hard to overstate how big they were. They were just everywhere.
The press was absolutely obsessed. American critics were writing about them leading a British cinematic onslaught.
And they were collaborating constantly. You had Henry V, Dead Again, Peter's Friends.
And Much Ado About Nothing. That's really the peak of that collaboration. You watch that movie now and the chemistry is just, it's radiating off the screen.
It really is. It's so sunny and vibrant, and they just look like they're having the absolute time of their lives.
They do.
But here's the nuance I want to catch. It's easy now to look back and see her as just Mrs. Branagh during that period, but she was actually carving out a very, very distinct path for herself at the same time.
She was. And that path leads us directly to 1992 and a film called Howard's End.
Right, this is the one.
This is the role that separates her from the pack. It's a Merchant Ivory film. Anthony Hopkins is her co-star. She plays Margaret Schlegel. And this part is important. She actively pursued this role.
She didn't just get offered it.
No, she wrote to the director, James Ivory, to get an audition. She knew in her bones she could play this intellectual, idealistic, complicated woman.
And the critical reception was, it was instant. Roger Ebert, who we love to quote because he just nails it, said her performance had steel inside.
That is the perfect descriptor for Emma Thompson's dramatic work. Steel inside. She so often plays these polite, reticent, very British women, but underneath all that, there's a core of immense strength and intelligence.
And it pays off. She won the BAFTA, the Golden Globe, and, of course, the Academy Award for Best Actress. She had finally completely arrived independently of Branagh.
100%.
And she didn't coast on that win. The very next year, 1993, she does something that is statistically just incredibly rare.
She gets 2 Oscar nominations in the same year.
Wow.
She was only the 8th performer in history to do that. And the roles could not be more different, which just shows her incredible range.
So what were the films?
For lead actress, she has The Remains of the Day, again with Anthony Hopkins. She plays Miss Kenton, the housekeeper. It's just a masterpiece of repression and longing.
I read in the notes that she drew on her own family history for that part.
She did. She looked at her grandmother's experience in domestic service. And Thompson used this incredibly powerful, heavy phrase to describe it. She talked about the deformity that servitude inflicts upon people.
Wow, deformity. That is such a writer's way of looking at a character. Not just she's sad or she's frustrated, but she is deformed by her class position.
Exactly. And then in the same year, for the same awards, she's also nominated for Best Supporting Actress for In the Name of the Father.
A totally different movie.
Totally different. She plays Gareth Pierce, the real-life firebrand lawyer who fought to free the Guildford Four. So she's playing a repressed Edwardian servant and a modern crusading lawyer simultaneously. It was a complete flex.
It's incredible. So you've got the Oscar win, the double nomination the next year. She is on top of the acting world, but then we get the twist.
The Emma Talented nickname comes full circle.
She basically decides to stop acting for a bit and adapt a Jane Austen novel.
This is the moment where she secures that historic record. And we really need to stress the risk she was taking here. She was hired to write the screenplay for Sense and Sensibility.
She wasn't just doing a quick polish on an existing script.
No, not at all. She spent 5 years writing this script. 5 years of her absolute prime as an actress, sitting alone in a room, wrestling with Jane Austen.
Why do that? I mean, she was arguably the biggest actress in the world at that point. Why take that risk?
I think it goes back to her father. It goes back to Cambridge. She's a writer at her core. But the production itself was really tricky.
How so?
Well, for one, she cast herself as the lead, Eleanor Dashwood. Now, in the book, Eleanor is 19 years old.
And Emma Thompson was.
What? She was 35.
Oh, the tabloids must have had an absolute field day with that. She's too old, all that stuff.
There was a lot of skepticism. But Ang Lee, the director, he saw something brilliant in that. He said, Emma is an extremely funny lady. Like Austen, she's laughing at her own culture while she's a part of it.
That's a fantastic insight.
Isn't it? He realized that Thompson's intelligence and her ironic distance were actually perfect for Eleanor, who's the sensible one, the one who sees everything.
She holds it all together, and Thompson brings that sort of world-weary maturity to it. It makes total sense.
And it worked. The film is an absolute masterpiece. She won another BAFTA for her acting. But the history books, they care about the Oscar.
She won Best Adapted Screenplay.
She won Best Adapted Screenplay. She stood on that stage and proved she could deconstruct a story just as brilliantly as she could inhabit a character.
However, and there is always a however in these stories, while she is standing on that stage, accepting that Oscar, achieving this historic, unbelievable high,
her personal life had completely cratered.
Yeah. We have to talk about the end of the Golden Couple.
It was the British society scandal of the mid-90s. In 1995, Thompson and Branagh announced they were separating.
The official reason was work schedules, right? The classic Hollywood excuse.
That was the line. But it eventually came out that Branagh had been having an affair with Helena Bonham Carter.
Oof. That's brutal. And Thompson has been very, very open about the toll this took on her. She wasn't just sad.
No, she was clinically depressed. She was living alone. She described herself as being broken. She said she was essentially non-functional for a period of time.
Awful.
But, and this is one of those facts that sounds like it must be fake news, but is absolutely true. There is a bizarre intersection with American politics right here.
Oh my God, right. The Donald Trump story, I had to read this twice in the notes because I couldn't believe it.
It is completely surreal. So it's 1998. Thompson is on the set of the movie Primary Colors.
Yeah.
And she's playing a character very clearly based on Hillary Clinton, which is already a bit weird.
Okay.
She's sitting in her trailer. The phone rings. It's Donald Trump.
What?
He asks her out on a date. He offers to fly her to New York in his private jet.
This is happening as her divorce is being finalized?
Effectively, yes.
Yeah.
Right in the middle of all this emotional turmoil, she obviously declined.
I would hope so.
But she later joked that if she'd actually said yes, she could have changed the course of American history.
That is a terrifying butterfly effect to contemplate. Just imagine that alternate timeline for a second.
Let's not.
Good point. Let's get back to the art, because being the artist she is, she didn't just suffer through this, she used it. And this brings us to Love, Actually.
2003. This is probably the role the general public loves her for the most. She plays Karen, the wife who discovers her husband, played by the late, great Ellen Rickman, has bought an expensive necklace for another woman.
That scene, the scene in the bedroom, the Joni Mitchell CD is playing, she stands by the bed and just breaks. It crushes me every single time I see it.
Critics have called it the best crying on screen ever. And years later, Thompson admitted why it was so painfully real.
What did she say?
She said, quote, "I've had so much bloody practice at crying in a bedroom than having to go out and be cheerful."
Wow.
She tapped directly into the raw pain of the Branagh separation. She let all of us see the real wound.
It's almost voyeuristic when you know that. You realize you aren't watching acting technique. You're watching a woman reliving a profound trauma for the camera.
It's incredibly brave.
But happily, the story doesn't end in that bedroom with the Joni Mitchell CD.
No, it doesn't. She credits her work with saving her, but specifically, she credits Greg Wise.
The actor.
The actor she met on the set of Sense and Sensibility. He picked up the pieces as she put it. They got married in 2003, and they're still together.
And they have a daughter, Gaia, who she had through IVF at age 39, so she completely rebuilds her life.
A whole new chapter.
Okay, I want to look at the post-2000s career now, because once she has the Oscars and she has the happy marriage, she seems to shift gears. She stops chasing the romantic lead roles.
She does.
She starts becoming this incredible, versatile character actor.
It's a total liberation. She has absolutely nothing left to prove to anyone. In 2001, she does the HBO movie Wit. If you haven't seen this, you need to find it and watch it.
It's intense.
She shaves her head completely bald on screen. She plays a literature professor who is dying of ovarian cancer. It is brutal, it's intellectual, and it is completely stripped of all vanity. Roger Ebert, again, called it her finest work.
And then, just to show she can do absolutely anything, she pivots and plays Professor Trelawney in the Harry Potter movies.
Right, with the giant glasses and the frizzy hair, she is totally 100% willing to look ridiculous.
She has zero vanity.
That's her secret weapon. She isn't afraid to be ugly or silly or difficult.
Yeah.
And that leads directly to Nanny McPhee.
Which was another massive writing project for her.
Another 9-year gestation period, if you can believe it. She doesn't rush these things.
So what was the story there?
She took the Nurse Matilda books that she loved as a child and spent nearly a decade turning them into a film. She wrote the screenplay, and she starred as the nanny, wearing a snaggletooth, warts, a unibrow. She is completely unrecognizable.
Why spend 9 years of your life on a kids' movie?
Because she respects the audience. She called it a labor of great love. She understands that children's stories need real structure and darkness and heart just as much as adult stories do.
And it was a huge hit.
A massive hit. It proved her writing instincts were universal. It showed that Sense and Sensibility wasn't just some kind of fluke.
She really does span the entire spectrum. I mean, from the raw drama of Wit to the family fun of Nanny McPhee. And then you have a film like Saving Mr. Banks in 2013.
Oh, that performance.
She plays P.L. Travers, the author of Mary Poppins.
That was a high-wire act. Travers was a famously difficult woman. She was curmudgeonly, snobbish, incredibly contradictory. And Thompson had to make her sympathetic without softening any of those sharp edges.
One critic said she was firing on all cylinders. It's one of those performances where she's so prickly and unlikable, but you just can't take your eyes off her.
She's mesmerizing.
And more recently, I mean, look at a film like Good Luck to You, Leo Grande from 2022.
What a brave film that was. A sex comedy drama about an older woman, a widow, who hires a young sex worker to explore her own pleasure.
It dealt with body image and desire at an age where cinema usually makes women completely invisible.
It was praised for being marvelous sex education.
Yeah.
And it was just so honest and so vulnerable.
And then just to give everyone whiplash, she spins around and plays the monstrous villain, Miss Trunchbull, in Matilda the Musical.
In a giant prosthetic suit, swinging children by their pigtails.
She's doing it all.
There are no limits.
We've talked so much about the work, but we can't finish this deep dive without talking about the woman herself, because her personal life is just as unconventional and interesting as her career.
It really is.
We mentioned her husband, Greg Wise, but the story of their son is really something unique.
It tells you everything you need to know about her heart, I think. In 2003, she and Greg informally adopted a young man named Tindy. And he wasn't a baby. He was 16 years old when they met him.
Wow.
He was a Rwandan orphan and a former child soldier.
How does that even happen? You don't usually hear about celebrities, informally adopting a teenager.
They met him at a refugee council event in London. He was struggling. He was sleeping rough. He barely spoke any English. She just invited him to come spend Christmas with them.
Just like that.
And slowly, he just became a permanent fixture in their lives. He became their son. He eventually became a British citizen. This wasn't about writing a check for a charity. She opened her home and her entire family structure to someone who desperately needed it.
And that seems to align with her activism more generally. She is very, very loud about her beliefs.
Very loud and proud of it. She's an outspoken atheist. She says she views organized religion with fear and suspicion. But she is deeply committed to environmentalism.
She's a big supporter of Greenpeace.
A huge supporter. At one point, she actually bought a piece of land near Heathrow Airport.
Wow.
Just to physically block and complicate the government's plans to build a third runway.
That is next-level protest. That's some serious dedication to the cause.
She also visited the Arctic with Greenpeace to protest oil drilling. She's the chair of the Helen Bamber Foundation, which works with victims of torture. She even has a therapy room in her own office, specifically for refugees to use.
Wow.
Her philosophy seems to be that if you have a platform, you have a moral obligation to shout very loudly indeed.
It really seems like she doesn't separate her art from her life. The empathy she uses to understand and play a character like Miss Kenton in The Remains of the Day is the exact same empathy she uses for refugees in the real world.
I think that's exactly right. She says she works from the inside out. It's not a technique, it's just her trying to understand another human being's experience.
So when we zoom out, when we look at the whole picture, we have the comedian, the writer, the tragedian, the activist. How do we even begin to sum up the legacy of Emma Thompson?
I think you have to go back to her own description of her acting. She claims she has no technique. And it's true, she never went to drama school in the traditional sense. She went to Cambridge to study English literature. So whether she's playing a queen or a housekeeper or a magical nanny, she infuses them with this messy, modern, intellectual humanity. She gets compared to Maggie Smith or Judi Dench a lot, but she has a different kind of energy.
She's the Cambridge intellectual who isn't afraid to look ugly or be silly.
Precisely. She's authorized by the Beatrix Potter estate to write new Peter Rabbit tales, which became bestsellers, by the way.
Yeah.
But she also rides a motorbike. It's that duality. She occupies a creative space that is entirely uniquely her own.
I want to leave our listener with one final thought from the sources. It's a quote from Emma regarding her father, Eric, who died quite young at just 52.
It's a really haunting quote. She said that while she regrets his absence more than anything, she has a definite feeling of inheriting space and power.
Inheriting space and power. That is such a provocative idea.
It is. It makes you wonder how much of this relentless output, the writing, the acting, the campaigning, how much of that is her way of filling that space he left behind. It suggests that her incredible career isn't just about talent. It's about this profound, personal drive to occupy the volume of space that she was given.
That gives me chills. Next time you watch Sense and Sensibility, don't just watch it as a beautiful period drama. Watch it as a singular feat of authorship by the woman in the bonnet filling that space.
Thanks for diving in with us.
See you next time.